welcome to Jewish National Fund USA's daily Israel Emergency Update. I'm Joe Wolfson, First Vice President of the JNF USA Board of Directors. Thank you for joining us on our daily briefings as we continue to stand in solidarity with our family and friends in Israel. Joining us today is Major Libby Weiss, IDF spokesperson and friend of JNF USA. Major Weiss was born in Portland, Oregon, served as an IDF spokesperson for nearly 6 years from 2011 through 2017, which included spending most of the summer of 2014 inside Hamas tunnels during Operation Protective Edge. Major Weiss, we understand that you, like so many others, are back in service as a reservist. We thank you for your efforts, your dedication, and for making time to meet with us today for your important update.
Thank you so much, Joe, and to the whole JNF community. It's really an honor to be back here. And I not only am a friend of JNF, a longtime friend and admirer of your work. So I want to start by thanking everyone who's here on the line. I want to provide you now with a brief update from the latest developments of what's going on. And we are now on day 40 of this war with Hamas. And right now I'm coming to you from Tel Aviv, but I just got back about an hour ago from the communities and the kibbutzim along the border with the Gaza Strip. And I was there with a group on Route 232, which we've now sort of given it the name of the road of death, the road where so many of the terrorists attacked civilians on October 7th, the road where the Nova Music Festival was taking place. And on a personal level, it was a reminder for me 40 days after of why we are here and why we are doing this. And our goals here are very clear and haven't changed from the beginning, which is to eliminate Hamas, to eliminate all of Hamas's terror and terror supporting capabilities, and to bring back our hostages, all 239. We are deeply distressed about their well-being. We are thinking about them, as I'm sure all of you are as well, constantly. And I feel that in any briefing that I give, it's so important for me to just start with the perhaps obvious call, which is the fastest way for them to come home is for Hamas to release them immediately. And I call in every opportunity I have for anybody in the international community, anybody in any sort of position of influence, and just individuals to put pressure on elected officials to call for Hamas to release them immediately. Our military activities and ground operations are continuing in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. We are making significant progress there. We're talking about fierce close quarter combat between IDF soldiers and Hamas terrorists in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. At this stage, unfortunately, 46 IDF soldiers and officers have been killed in action, and we are thinking about their families and their heroes. There's really no other way to describe their contribution. But the progress is significant. We have struck at this stage more than 15,000 Hamas targets in the northern part of the Gaza Strip. We've destroyed 300 tunnel shafts. We've come upon and destroyed hundreds of booby-trapped buildings. 3,000 sort of terror infrastructure sites have been destroyed. Hundreds of rigged sites with explosives. And we're targeting the top brass of Hamas. So most recently, we're talking about the head of the anti-tank missile array in Khan Yunis, as well as the head of Hamas military intelligence. So we are targeting their senior leadership, but also down to the very last terrorist who was involved in the attacks or potentially involved in future attacks on Israelis. I want to also talk a little bit about the activities in Shifa Hospital, which is perhaps the latest update in terms of what is going on the ground. And we know now for more than a decade that Hamas has been using civilian locations exactly like Shifa Hospital, other hospitals in the Gaza Strip, as well as schools, mosques, community centers, really anything you can imagine that is a civilian site, Hamas has been using for terror activity. And that includes Shifa Hospital. Starting yesterday evening and through the day, the IDF has been engaged in very, very precise, controlled and limited activities in the Shifa complex. It's important to say that we are not targeting any of the patients who are in Shifa, any of the medical teams who are there. We're operating in completely different areas of the hospital complex, with the goal of finding the terror assets that we believe to be there and to make sure that Hamas can no longer use it. We've also brought in medical aid, which includes incubators for children who are being hospitalized in Shifa. And along with us as well came medics and Arabic speakers to make sure that we are delivering the message to the civilians in the hospital as much as possible. Now, the activity in Shifa comes after our activity in the Rantizi Hospital, which is a children's hospital in the northern part of the Gaza Strip as well, where we found significant Hamas assets that under no normal circumstance would you expect to find these kinds of assets in a hospital. So we're talking about RPGs, explosive devices, a tunnel that went from the home of a Hamas senior leader adjacent to the hospital into the basement of the hospital, solar panels that we know were bringing power into that area as well, and unfortunately, what looked to be evidence that hostages were being held in the basement of Rantizi as well. Now, both of these examples are clearly violations of international law that Hamas has done, and we anticipate that there'll be other civilian locations that we will come upon and that we will have to investigate that Hamas is also using. In terms of the humanitarian efforts that we are taking in the Gaza Strip, there are many, and these are really concrete steps that we're taking to try and minimize the impact on civilians. First, now for several weeks, we have been calling on civilians in the northern part of the Gaza Strip to move to the south. At this stage, more than 900,000 civilians have moved from the north to the south, and we're delivering that message in several ways. First, we've dropped more than 1.5 million pamphlets in Arabic urging civilians to move from the north to the south. We've sent sort of 6 million voice messages instructing people to move, sent 4 million text messages, and made 20,000 individual phone calls instructing people to move. So you can really see by the scope of the efforts that have been made, the goal is to get people to move, and we continue to encourage people to move. And we're doing that through local pauses that are taking place every day, in which we're facilitating the movement of civilians from the north to the south. Unfortunately, Hamas is making that difficult. And we saw earlier in this war that not only was Hamas discouraging civilians from moving to the north, from the north to the south, but they were also resorting to violence to prevent that movement. They were placing explosive devices along the route and doing other things that were preventing civilians from moving. So at this stage, IDF forces are actually securing the evacuation corridors and making sure that Hamas won't interfere in the movement of civilians from the north to the southern part of the Gaza Strip. The humanitarian aid that has been discussed is going into the Gaza Strip every day. At this stage, more than 1,300 trucks of humanitarian aid have gone into the Gaza Strip. We're talking about 8,000 tons of food, nearly 3,000 tons of medical supplies, and a constant stream of water that is being brought in to the Gaza Strip, with the hope, of course, that it will go to civilians and not be used by Hamas. I want to say also a few words about the situation in the northern part of the country, as this is really another front that is a focus of our attention. And we're seeing really with every passing day that the situation on the ground becomes one of almost a multi-front situation. And we see that in the last month, Hezbollah has been involved in several attacks against Israeli civilians and soldiers by launching missiles, mortar fire, and attempted infiltrations into Israeli territory, which is something that we're seeing on a fairly regular basis at this point. The IDF is responding forcefully to those attacks. And from the first day, we've been sending Hezbollah and all of the other terror organizations on our borders and the countries that harbor and sponsor these terrorist organizations a very clear message. And that's a message to not get involved in what is happening. And we're joined in that message by our allies in the United States. And the message now is one I think that even goes a step further, which is a direct call to Lebanon, which is, do they want to be, do they want to be responsible for the consequences that they will face if they get involved in this conflict? We're seeing that they are very quickly slipping into a scenario where they will pay a very heavy price for their defense of Hamas. We think that for their own interest, it is better for them to not get involved and to exert control as the sovereigns in Lebanon on the situation in the south, as in southern Lebanon. But we will respond as necessary. And it's very clear that the reality on the ground there is going to have to change in some regard. We have thousands of Israelis who have been evacuated from the border with Lebanon, and we need to make sure that they will be able to return home and to live safely and securely and not under a threat coming from Hezbollah in the north. So we are monitoring that situation very, very closely as we're monitoring the situation really on all of our borders. But the focus largely remains on Hamas. And we understand that attempts by Hezbollah or other terrorist organizations are to some degree an attempt to distract us from what is going on in the Gaza Strip. And we won't be distracted by that. And we'll deal with whatever threat we need to face head on and do whatever we need to do to defend our public and ultimately to bring back our hostages. But that is the latest here on the ground operationally. And I'm happy now to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you so much. One question that has come up is, in addition to, as you've mentioned, reaching out to our representatives and others in the government and getting together in mass rallies, as you saw yesterday, what can we here in the U.S. do to help get the message out about what the IDF is doing and how it is acting so professionally and humanely in this effort to root out terrorism?
Yeah, I think it's a really important question. First, I think that, sadly speaking, I think that memories are short. And as I part of my role, I work with and I interview and I speak to news outlets and reporters all day, every day. And attention spans are short. And I think that as this war continues, perhaps the public is forgetting how this whole thing started and why we are even in this war in the first place. And I think that keeping the memories of those who were killed alive is so important. And attaching names and faces and stories to the 1,200 people who were killed is really critical. And it's amazing the degree to which people forget that. And I found myself, even in interviews, having to remind reporters how this started in the first place, and to emphasize that this is not a war that we started. This started on October 7th when Hamas massacred our people. And we need to remember why we are here. We need to remember their stories. I think a constant rallying cry for the release of the hostages is absolutely necessary. I don't envision any scenario where we could possibly pause what is going on without calling for an immediate release of the hostages. And I think really speaking to everybody within our own communities, within your communities, and to pose a really simple question, which is, if we want to end this, Hamas can do that very easily. They can release all of the hostages. They can surrender they can abandon terrorism, and then we would not be in this conflict. But until we do that, we have to fight. There is no other option. And we're taking extraordinary measures as we are fighting. And I think just reminding people of this, whether in our, in your personal community, your professional community, wherever it may be, is absolutely necessary so that this truth is not lost.
Thank you. One last question that's come up. Here in the U.S., we are seeing a much more effective effort on the part of the IDF in Israel in getting that message out. Having done this 9 years ago and now today, after this horrific massacre, what have you seen as the biggest difference and the most effective changes that's occurred to get that message out from Israel to the rest of the world?
Wow, I could speak for probably hours on this. I'll try to be as concise as possible. I think there are a few aspects. I think one, I was already down. I've been in reserve duty since October 8th. I think my first day down south was probably October 9th. And it was very dangerous. I mean, it was an active war zone. And I think bringing people, reporters, heads of state, leaders, to the sort of the scenes of the battle on Israeli territory as soon as possible. I think that was absolutely necessary, despite the very obvious danger that was involved in doing that. I think showing the level of depravity that Hamas exhibited and showing really graphic footage and images in a secure and controlled way to reporters has made a significant difference. And I think really being on the front lines of the battle in Gaza and bringing reporters in there with the troops to see what Hamas is doing. And I think in some regard, we are so motivated by what happened, and we've always been motivated. But I think the sense here of the attack that we feel is unprecedented. And I think that's coming across. And I think if in the past, people would in a silly way almost, didn't understand why it was justified for us to attack Hamas because they were launching rockets at us. Now it's almost personal when they tell us or they question our justification. And I think that we're making that clear in every communication that we have. And I think when people see it here, it becomes a lot harder to question why we're acting in the way that we have to act and why we have to defend ourselves.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Major Weiss. We appreciate your service, your dedication. Stay strong, stay safe, and we hope to meet with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is our dear friend Nissan Ben Amo, Mayor of Arad. When we started working with communities in Arad, it was an area in decline. It was only due to our close partnership with Mayor Ben Amo that the communities have grown and flourished through our transformative initiatives, such as the JNF USA Housing Development Fund and Central Park construction. And it's because of these efforts and our great partnership that we were able to help evacuate so many families to this area. Nissan, thank you for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. And I'm very happy to be here on this call. Unfortunately, the events of October 7 caught us by complete surprise, like the rest of the state of Israel. We woke up to the sounds of alarms on Saturday morning, and from there we actually started to activate all our emergency teams. We quickly realized that the event that is taking place is much bigger than another incident of rockets fire. As crazy as it sounds, we are already used to the missiles. In the first days, we had two main tasks before our eyes. First is to ensure the safety of our residents. We closed the city gates, opened all our emergency shelters, and increased the security forces. And after a few days, when we realized that we are in a relatively safe area, we started to try to return to the city to the kind of emergency routine where we continue to provide the municipal services to the residents. On the first days, on the absence of the government, we were on the only address for the residents. They called the emergency room. They called me personally. They asked what to do. They were very confused, and we had to gather all our forces to guide the people. Fear is not a rational thing. Try to explain them that we are relatively in a safe area. They had nightmares like that now all the Arabs of Israel will rise up and start to go up on cities one by one, because they saw what happened in the Gaza envelope. And for them, it's a reasonable scenario now that there are hundreds of terrorists waiting for a call to try to conquer Arad or something like that. Fortunately for us, as I mentioned, Arad is located in the southern district near the Dead Sea, and relatively in a safe area out of the range of the missiles. And so we have now a third mission. We began to receive residents who were evacuated from Sderot and Ofakim, over 2,000 evacuees, which are located in our 3 hotels and guest houses. And just to understand, it's like an increase of 10% of Arad population. We have around 30,000 residents. Suddenly we have now 3,000 more to take care of them. In light of the fact that they were left their homes with very little equipment, we had to procure clothes, food, equipment for schools, and also mental care for what they gone through. And we are very grateful that JNF, our partners that accompany us for almost 10 years now, and had a major share in the growth of Arad, the quick response and the generous donation allow us to help them to purchase these things, from basic food to clothes to adopt them in our school system. By the way, we have over 100 children in our kindergarten schools, and people opened their homes, started to cook for them, and we actually are now the home for them that they lost. More than that, there are a few families that already decided to stay in Arad, unfortunately for the state of Israel, because we want to see the Gaza envelope raise again and to rebuild whatever which was destroyed during the events. But we also have an opportunity now to absorb more families to the region. We also support, we give a great support to the Dead Sea region. Just to understand, over 16,000 evacuees are in the hotels of the Dead Sea. And in the first weeks, the volunteers from Arad, over 100 volunteers help them to accommodate, to help them whatever they need. Fortunately, now in these days, the government took charge over the event, and they are building temporary schools and school system, and we support that with teachers and psychologists and whatever they need over there. But I must say, the quick response of JNF, our community overseas, all of you, it's amazing to see that you support us. It gives us the confidence that we can go through these difficult times because we have you. We have our voice overseas. We saw this amazing support event with thousands and thousands of people saying and screaming, "We stand with Israel." It gives us the confidence. It gives us the know that we have your support, not only with funds, also with the great voice that you are saying and screaming overseas.
Well, Nisan, thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
How has Arad integrated the children that have been evacuated into the school system and the difficulties you've experienced there?
what is beautiful in small communities is that we are a warm community. We see families that actually adopted a family from Sderot or Ofakim and accompany them along the process, being children, giving them the friends. And it's amazing to see how important for these children is the fact that they have a place that they can going back to normal, because these children doesn't know a single night without alarms. Over 20 years of missiles, it's unacceptable, and now suddenly they have their place, and they can stay quiet, and they have the quiet nights, and we really hug them and give them the support, and we invest, and it costs, and we invest and with our funds in order to give them whatever they need, with more teachers, and to accompany them in personal way during the process. And you see, it's amazing. The children, I think they are very fast. They're accommodated. The problem is with the parents, with the horror they went through, and the support, the mental support that they need. I think that children will be okay, but the parents are the one who need the major support, and to see in the future where they are going back, because they said we won't go back until the state of Israel will secure the borders. We are not going through again this horror.
Nissan, thank you so much for all that you're doing. Some of you may know that Nissan is the chairman of the Forum of Southern Mayors in Israel. And Nissan and that forum are going to be an integral part of the rebuilding campaign that we at JNF USA are committed to participating in and leading, because we were there for them yesterday, we're there for them today, and Nissan, we will be there with you tomorrow. So thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Our final speaker today is Ani Arnon, the executive director of ACAT, or the Arava International Center for Agricultural Training. As many of you may know, ACAT brings hundreds of students to Israel each year from countries around the world, some of whom do not even have relations with Israel, to obtain practical training on advanced and modern farming technologies, theoretical agricultural studies, and professional guided tours of the area and community life. We're all aware of the impact this war has had on so many workers from various countries who were in Israel working on farms in the southern communities, including a significant number who were taken hostage during the barbaric attack on October 7th. Chani, we thank you for being with us today, and we look forward to your report.
Thank you, Joe, and toda rabba. Thank you so much for having me, for the opportunity to be with you today. Yes, I'm the ACAT director. I'm also a mother of Yuval, who is in the military currently. But today, I represent the Arava farmers and my community, Central Arava. We are settling the east border of Israel, the border with Jordan. We chose agriculture. We chose it as a way of life. For us, it's Zionism. For us, it's protecting the border. For us, it's taking care also for food security. On normal days, we never complain. We are very happy with what we have and what we are doing. But this November, a month after October 7, we are crying for help. This area based on farming, and there is a terrible, terrible crisis of working hands. Our farmers, they are working in the farm during the day, and they are protecting, and they are guard and protecting the moshav, the community, at nights. We invest all our money in the plants of tomatoes, sweet pepper, zucchini, melons, eggplant, and etc. It's the harvest time now, and we need people to harvest. We have no people to harvest. The government of Thailand asked their citizens to evacuate. They evacuate them, and they went back home to Thailand. Right now, we are missing immediately around 700 people. 700, and it's even more because the harvest time just starts now. Actually, we begged to our government, to the Israeli government, and they let us increase the number of students. They let us bring more students from different countries, and we try to do it. We try to connect our universities all over the world, but in Asia they say no. We cannot send our citizens to Israel while you are under war. The only government that let us bring students is Kenya. So right now we are in the middle of recruitment, a very, very short process. We recruit 300 new students. 150 of them are new. They are from the universities that we cooperate with, and 150 more, they are our graduates. They will come for second year. They will come to the same farms, and we build for them immediately. We organize ourselves. We build for them a second year program. Actually, we had an experience from what we had during the COVID. So we just add more topics about community resilience and more. We thought that we overcome the challenges, because right now we have a group, the first group of 110 are waiting in Kenya to come to Israel. But there is another challenge, no flights. So we hired an airplane, historic one, from Nairobi to Tel Aviv. There is no flights, no direct flights in normal days, but we hired an airplane. The cost is huge. Students that we recruit them immediately, they don't have money to pay for this flight because it's 3 times more expensive than what they usually pay. Farmers will pay for them 1/3 of the cost. Farmer will pay for them the visa, the health insurance, the transportation from the airport to the Arava. But we need your help. We need you to be with us, or to help us to cover the cost of this airplane, because we need these people immediately in the Arava. We cannot tell the tomatoes, please wait till the student will arrive. We need them yesterday, not today. Actually, we find many Israelis who are coming, young people, even high school, maybe from Arad too. But we find young people and Israelis that are coming, to volunteer 1 day, 2 days. We cannot base our agriculture on these volunteers. It's not enough. They are not professional. They come with a big heart, with open heart, but it's not enough. So that's why I'm here today, to bring the voice of my farmers the farmers in my community, because we need these students immediately. I'm here to answer questions if you have.
Thank you so much, Hani. As you can all see, this massacre affected not only the people who lived in the Gaza envelope and the communities that were directly attacked, but the ripple effects are enormous and could be a wave that every Israeli is feeling. Hani, we want you to know that we are with you, and I want to thank you and all of our speakers here today. We're 40 days into this war, and we all know that this is hard and it's not going to end soon. Yesterday, with a showing of nearly 300,000 people in Washington, D.C., the world heard us. The world knows that we will not stand silently as our brothers and sisters in Israel and Jews around the world are attacked. We will not relent. We will not cower. I know so many of you received comments from your family and friends in Israel saying how strengthening it is for them to see us gather, call for the return of hostages, and reject the disease that is anti-Semitism. And we cannot give up. We are part of this war, and I thank you for how generously you are contributing your time, effort, voice, and your pocketbooks. As always, please visit jnf.org/support Israel to contribute to our resilience campaign, to see how the impact you are having with those who were directly impacted by the attack on October 7th, and everyone such as Hani and the communities that are now suffering. You can also visit our jnf.org/shopping page to send care packages to soldiers and evacuee families, or to purchase your Hanukkah gifts for this year, while supporting small businesses in the north and south of Israel. And spread the word about our volunteer missions to Israel. To Hani's point, Beginning in December 10th, we invite those who have the ability to work with us in farming, logistical support on IDF bases, or work with evacuee families to sign up at jnf.org/volunteer-IL to go to Israel, to volunteer, and help when the help is most needed. For now, I will sign us off until tomorrow's daily briefing at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you again for all you have done and all that I know you will do. I'm Yisrael Chai. Thank you.